Jessica, it worked. We are
Yes,
live everywhere we're trying to go live.
love it. Great job, Kelly.
Hey, thanks. It's really nice when things work. You guys have been having a day today. Nothing worked for me up until this point. So we're very happy to be here. Hello, hello, hello. Today we are going to talk about time mapping because it is that time of year when I really start harping on all of my audience and my clients about planning. I'm a big believer in planning. We can talk more about why. But first, let's say hello, hello, Jessica. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back, Kelly. And don't worry, this stepping forward, your whole day is going to be different. Like starting now. This is the first really big good thing that happened. Everything worked.
Oh,
Okay.
I love it.
Your day.
I love it. You are great. I'm going to turn on my light here and make myself have a little bit more light. You guys, as you are coming in, please say hello. Let us know that you're here. Really, we love to take attendance. We love to say hello to you. We love to follow up on your questions. So I want to know that you're here. I want to introduce you guys to Jessica Maurer. So Jessica H. Maurer is a seasoned fitness consultant who helps businesses go from overwhelmed to organized. Jessica's international presentation certifications and consultations are all about growth, career transformation, and overall wellness, making fitness and business a joyful journey. So she has education. Her expertise spans education program and instructor development and brand evolution. And she is a key player in elevating the industry. She is here as a proxy for Denise, and she's also working with Vibes as
The
and what
music.
are you doing with Vibes? Tell us more.
I'm the music concierge at Vibes. I'm the one who's making the playlist, the artist collections that are like really kind of getting the pulse of what's new, what's coming back in style, what maybe you haven't heard of before. Maybe there's some unknown voices. And I'm really focused right now on making sure that people understand that fitness music doesn't always have to feel like you're in a dance club. It can really be effective in other formats and other classes where we can use real original artists, thanks to Vibes and Universal Music, to create a vibe that has people wanting to come back for more and more.
I want to talk about that more later when you give us the little Vibes update because I noticed that last week when you were talking about what was going on with Vibes. But let's first move into we both have a lot of experience in business and helping people create businesses. I want to talk about planning. But let's talk first about just what's going on this week for you. So Denise and I always do like my favorite thing from this week. For me, my favorite thing this week is that I now have internet at my house. Yay.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It was incredible. He came last Friday and did a temporary hookup. And then on Saturday, they actually rehung all the wires. For those of you guys that don't know, Hurricane Helene hit in this area. And I'm outside of the area that was major impacted. But even with that being said, this is how big that storm was. 4 days without electricity and then 3 weeks without internet. And I'm in the country, but I'm not like way out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not downtown, but it's still a pretty populated area. We've got a Walmart within 2 miles. So
You're good.
yeah. So they came and it was the craziest thing because all of a sudden, like I felt like a human again.
Mm. It's amazing, right? Like turning on technology, what that feels like for us now.
It was really like a weird thing. There's Soraya joining us. Hello, hello. All right, so I'm gonna put you on the spot because I did not prepare you for this. Do you have a great thing from this week or a favorite thing or
I do. I lived in Asheville, North Carolina for 6 years until I recently moved to Florida.
Yay. And
Yeah,
that's the area that was hit.
very, very badly. But two of my best friends still live in Asheville, and we do a Friday Lady Love. So it's every Friday we text each other and we're like, hey, tell us something good. Give us your lady love. of the week. And one of my best friends who contributes to my Lady Love every Friday is actually coming to stay with us this weekend, to get a little bit of a vacation away from everything that's happening in Asheville. She and her husband and her two lovely, lovely daughters are coming down to spend some time with us here where it's dry and we have water and internet, which are things that Asheville just doesn't have right now. And so I'm so excited that my Lady Love is going to be real and in person with me in just a few days.
I'm really excited for you too. Now, do they have water and electricity so far at their house?
Electricity, yes. Water is still not potable, so still under boil warning. Last I was updated, still no hot water. So we're still having issues with that. And then, of course, cell service and Wi-Fi service are still very, very spotty in that area. Kind of, you have to hold your breath and stand in a certain way. But, you know, they're working on it one area at a time. I know that there's been so many volunteers from surrounding states and areas that are sending aid. And I think everything that we can do in order to contribute to the funds of rebuilding Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee is going to be huge over the next few years.
Agreed. I saw a really cool post where they were thanking some crews that came in from West Virginia that kind of reconnected Chimney Rock to the rest of the world, which was amazing because they thought that was going to be like 2 years.
Yeah, and if you're unaware of Chimney Rock, please just Google Chimney Rock before and after. The photos are just absolutely devastating, and so you'll understand how much need that area really has in order to rebuild.
Yeah. Okay, so beautiful. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited to hear about your visit next week when we get back and we talk about our best things. In the meantime, let's talk about planning because it's the last 60 days of the year. We're coming up on it right now. This is when you start to make your plans for next year and if you do it correctly, not in just like a pie in the sky, like I'm making 60,000, I would like to make $1 million next. If you really sit down and think about a few key tactical elements, you can really front load your year. And I can talk a little bit about what those are for me, but one of the big takeaways from today is going to be that tomorrow inside Zoom, I won't be broadcasting it. It is a small fee paid event, and then my paid clients get it for free. But we are doing a 90-minute planning session where I'm going to guide you through and give you time to plan the exact pieces that I believe are most important for you to get in place before the new year. So I'd love to hear from you. What does your planning process look like starting right about now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I do before the end of the year is to look back and kind of decide what were my biggest hurdles of the year. Did I overcome them? If I didn't overcome them, are they still something that I need to work on? And then start to dream about what next year would look like. So kind of going a little bit at the back and a little bit forward in order to really plan what next year should and could look like. To your point, can't be pie in the sky. Can't just say I'm going to go from 0 to 600 and in no time flat. It really has to be something that's incremental and that you have the correct set of expectations for moving forward.
Yeah.
The rest of the year.
So important. So for me, that looks like planning out the right specific events and then knowing what your goals are for those events and then making sure those goals are in line with the work that you're willing to do and the leverage that you have within your audience and all of those good things. So I don't know, I like as you and I are talking, I'm like, how do you strike that balance between having big goals and then setting yourself up for something that is, I don't even like the word realistic. Like, I believe we should dream.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, where do you stand on that? And how do you kind of balance that for yourself?
Again, I really have to go back and look at, okay, what was my last month? Like, did I actually accomplish what I wanted to in my last month, or did life happen? Because if you can look back and say, oh, I really had these goals set in place, but then my kid got walking pneumonia and 2 hurricanes hit. And then you can look at the rest of your week and say, or the rest of your year and say, I need a little bit more space in here. I need a buffer week. It's a good way for reality. I know I'm not a big fan of the realistic aspect either, but it's a good way for you to be like, hey, the world happens, reality happens, and maybe I just need a little bit more space. And just if you look back in the last 30 days and you didn't need any of that grace and space and time, then maybe you can put your foot on the pedal a little bit more. But it's just a great way for you to kind of say, oh, the world happens and this is outside of my control. And therefore, looking forward, maybe I need to make some adjustments and some buffer. I think a lot of times we as professionals, especially entrepreneurs, forget about the rest of the world and things that aren't necessarily always in our control. And by looking back and being really realistic with yourself of how much was outside of your control can help you in moving forward.
You know, for me too, I think those are all really good points. And I would love to hear maybe at some point, maybe we do a different episode or something about your looking back process. 'Cause that's something that I don't do as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
I've heard people say they take their whole calendar and they go through it and then they like write down the challenges. I don't do any of that, but I know that it is really helpful. Yeah. And it is. I think I'm avoiding pain. I think it is hard.
I was going to ask you what Enneagram number you were, if you knew. Because what are you?
7.
I am too. I'm a 7. And so this idea of looking back and going through painful things, it's like, if you don't know the Enneagram, guys, it is the scariest thing to a 7. That is like petrifying. Is 1, to be uninvited to a party that you were invited to, and 2, to have to go through hard feelings. 7s are out. So I feel you. It's a huge, almost therapy session. I have to give myself time and space, and I book out an hour before and an hour after because I know that I just need time to really go back and look at things and be honest with myself of what was outside of my control and what was inside of my control.
Yeah. So true. You know, the other thing that was coming up for me as you kept on saying that, like we're dancing around this word realistic. There's also like, how much work are you willing to do? How much leverage are you willing to find? So, you know, a lot of times when you see somebody that looks like they were an overnight success, it's actually they're leveraging 10 years of work that they put behind that. But then they're also leveraging maybe a huge network. Maybe they've developed like a new relationship with somebody who has 3 million followers, or they've found a way that gets their message out there in a really big way. And then that 10 years of work that was behind them was the time where they developed that message that resonates. And they did the things that now poise them at that place to where when they leverage, they're able to kind of skyrocket. And so that's when you do see somebody go from making $60,000 a year to making $1 million a year, but it's rare and there's a lot of setup behind it. So I wanted to call that out because realistic is not always the goal, and unrealistic is not always unrealistic. But you want to look at what you're willing to do, what tools you have at your disposal, and then, you know, how often am I willing to launch? How often am I willing to go live in front of my audience? And how much money do those things make now? How much could they make next year?
It's perception, right? It's all about perception. And a lot of us, we deal with this idea of imposter syndrome where we look at someone and we're like, I'm never going to live up to that. Or how did they go, like you said, from zero to nothing? And it's all about your perception. You're seeing a very curated, put forth PR message from businesses, from brands, from entrepreneurs. It's curated and crafted to make you think that they were this overnight success. But what we're seeing, I found so really uplifting about 2024 is we're seeing this push back to the idea of experience over financials. So what I mean by that is a lot of people are starting to go back and look at who has longevity in their career, who has figured out how to adapt and change and make this work for an extended period of time, instead of looking at who's the most important person on TikTok. So we're starting, I think, to really see this shift of back to this idea of I want to follow the experts, I want to follow the gurus, don't necessarily want to follow the fads and the trends. And I can't wait to
Mm.
continue to watch that, because I think more people coming forward and sharing how long they have been in the wings, how long they do have experience, I think is going to be really a new way of looking at guidance in the next year.
Ooh, really interesting. I know
Mhm.
that the coaching industry is totally changing. I know that this year I've really evolved my product offering. I've really evolved my pricing structure, all of it. I'm about to evolve it again. I'm going to announce a new way of working with me tomorrow when I do the planning session. And so I do think everything about the way we take in this information and the way we digest it and the way we look for it is changing, that's based on people's experiences from the last, especially the last 4 years. I feel like that's when it's all really exploded.
Absolutely. I think so.
Okay, so I want to talk about my process, how I view planning. I would love to hear from you on this, and then I would love to talk tomorrow about the workshop that's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if workshop's a good word. I've been calling it a session. It's like a
Ooh,
co-work. I'm gonna teach a lesson, and then I'm gonna be like, "Okay, now you go do this. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. Now you go do this, and I'm gonna give you 10 minutes." So it's a little bit of a co-work too.
I really love that idea of like, it's not just lecture, right? Sometimes when
Yeah.
people see workshop, they're like, oh, that's really a webinar. You're just going to talk at me, instead of you being like, no, no, we're going to do this together.
Yes, big for me, especially in this planning session. I do it every year. People say that they get the most out of it, out of anything I do all year, because they do sit down and do the work.
Mhm.
Um, the other piece of that for me is that I'm kind of at this place. I've been doing this for 4 years. I'm, like, tired of the sound of my own voice.
Mm,
Like, I've
mhm.
said all the things, and I've said them 100 times, and I know there are coaches that say, like, when you feel like you're so tired of hearing yourself say the same thing, that's when you've said it. That's when you need to keep saying it because, new people are hearing it, but, um I just wanna know that people are getting results, and so if you can walk away from this session tomorrow with, like, an actual calendar that has all of your stuff planned out, then I know that I've given you results, like, it's
Mhm.
tangible, it's right there.
Yeah, I love that. And then it's your responsibility to keep going. And I love that you're there
Mhm.
as their coach to keep them accountable. So tell me a little bit about your planning methods. I would love to hear it.
Ah, well, thank you. So tomorrow we will get together and we're going to talk, first about the importance of having systems and structures. And we're going to talk about um, daily, weekly, and monthly tasks that you need to do to keep your business moving forward. I think there is so much white noise for so many people. Like, if I had to start my business over again and I had like none of the knowledge that I've got right now, and I just kind of started guru surfing
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
looking for advice, oh my gosh, I would be so confused and
Yeah.
so overwhelmed by what's out there because I feel like every different business coach is out there taking one little specific piece and making it into like their message, and they make it into the thing that you need to do because that's their hook. That's how they get you kind of into their purview. It's
Mhm.
great strategy. It can be helpful. But with so many coaches out there talking all about one specific different little thing, gets really confusing. And so then we as business owners are left with this idea that we have to do all the things all the time.
So true.
So I'm really big on boiling that down to like what the actual essential things are that are going to move the needle on your business.
I love that. I-
So that's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about the essential things that move the needle in your business, and then we're gonna plan out when you're gonna do those actual things.
I think that's so important because often as entrepreneurs, and especially in like the health and wellness industry, we tend to be creative. And therefore, because we're creative, we get into that mindset of like monkey brain, monkey ideas, where you're just constantly always brainstorming, but not ever acting on those brainstorms.
Mm.
And we often get into the habit too. I know, especially for me, for the past couple of years, the big thing has been like make a list, right? Your brain is not for memory perspective. Your brain is for thinking, and so if you have to constantly try to remember, then your brain can't be creative and think. So take everything that's in your brain and write it down, get it on a list. But as we were talking about before, sometimes that feels very overwhelming because you look at your list and you're like, having a giant notebook of all the things I need to accomplish yesterday. And
Mhm.
when am I going to do all of it? How am I going to do all of it? And then when you get overwhelmed, you just close the notebook and you walk away from it all. And so
Mhm.
I think taking the time for you to actually put things in place and put things in action of knowing this is step one, this is step two, that system and that process becomes so important to keep you from feeling
Mhm.
overwhelmed, underwater, and like you can't accomplish anything.
So true, so true. I'll give a great example that comes out of this session that I do every year. We call it Path to Profit because you're mapping out your year for the next year. But one of the things that you will end up doing is giving your months an overarching topic and then breaking that down into weeks so that every week when you sit down to create a little bit of social media content, and by the way, I'm going to let you off the hook about 90% of the social media content that you should be doing. But when you do sit down to think about your social media content, you're not like starting from zero and then pushing a boulder up a hill. You already
Mhm.
know kind of where you're at, and then you can let the ideas flow from there. Hopefully, you're at the week before, but who cares? Either way, when you've got that pressure on you to completely come up with a new topic and you have no idea where you're starting from, that's overwhelming, and that's why most of us are inconsistent on social media.
That's so true. I look at Steve Jobs. There was a reason why Steve Jobs wore the exact same outfit every single day. He
Yes.
had a uniform, right? And it was because if you're wasting your decisions in the morning over something that's essentially frivolous, then you can't make the big decisions later in the day. And let's be honest, while social media is so drastically important to your brand awareness, it also can be seen as frivolous because it's not necessarily those follow-up calls. It's not connecting with your paying clients. And so if you don't have to make the decision about social media, save your brain space for later. So make the decisions ahead of time so that during the day, you can really focus on what you said before, what's going to move the needle. Um,
Amen.
mhm.
That's exactly it. I love it. I love the way you said that.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
well, I would love to hear what kinds of things are you doing in your business right now, and what kinds of clients are you looking for? Or are you completely full up and you're not
Oh, no,
really looking for clients?
I love it. I'm absolutely looking for clients. I love to help consult and move people forward in whatever their endeavors are. So I definitely am interested in taking on more clients. I do want to share one piece of information that we were talking about before, and it's something that's changed how I look at my business and how I look at my day. And it's the idea of three things. Most of the time, we in business they really advocate you pick your three MITs for the day. Those are the things that are most important. Well, I broke it down a little bit further. I do one thing for Jessica in the past, I do one thing for Jessica today in the present, and I do one thing for Jessica in the future. And those are my MITs every day. And I'll be honest with you, past Jessica gets all the emails that I don't ever want to answer. That tends to be what I do for Jessica in the past. And then Jessica in the presence, whatever the most important thing is to get it moving today, whether it's meeting with clients, it's follow up with clients, it's helping them with their websites, their social media, their game plans for building businesses for the next year. And then the future Jessica is that idea of if I took care of something today, what am I going to be grateful for that I did in 2 weeks? And I try not to think about the next day or the next week. I try to look really much further in the future and get those things accomplished because it wraps back around into that idea of I don't have to make those frivolous decisions the day of, and I can save my brain space for helping other entrepreneurs.
That is so good. And you know what you did there is you put an outline around your 3 priorities. I always say if you have more than 3 priorities, you have no priorities. But you put an outline around those, which saves your brain space even further because you don't even have to come up with those from scratch. You're like, I know the outline and the overarching theme of what these things are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps people so much to think about how do you break it down into those small steps, the small actionable items, so that it doesn't feel so drastically overwhelming. And I think something else that we overlook is the research that
Mhm.
sometimes is required for launching, for building products, for putting things out there. And we don't take the time to actually take time to research and see what's out there. And so that becomes a lot of my, what am I doing for my future self is what's currently out there in the space, what's currently working for people, what are people looking for, like all of that content, or my own professional development, taking master classes, taking certifications, taking workshops. Those aspects we overlook so much. We think that they're not important, but they're actually the fuel for your fire. And so without that gasoline, your fire can't really explode and blossom.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately too, because sometimes you do start to feel like you're in a rut and then you just go like attend a conference or take a certification. All of a sudden, you're just right back in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. It's so
So,
true.
so good. Tell us about your vibes updates, please.
Oh, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. So I really believe in the power of this mental well-being renaissance. I know it feels like a fad. It feels like something that's just bubbling out there in space and it's not actually happening. But the statistics show otherwise. 78% of people work out for their mental well-being. We're seeing this younger generation not work out for sets and reps. They don't care about the calorie burn on their watch. They care about how they feel in here. And it's changing how we should therefore present fitness towards the consumers. We've got to start leading with not that a gym membership or coming to my classes is going to make you lose 5 pounds in 6 weeks. It's instead, hey, after this one workout, you're going to feel great. It's changing our messaging. And I think that music can really help people do that moving forward. It becomes a focal point for people because it plays into their mental well-being so much. There's so much information out there about playing into nostalgia, introducing people to new things, finding things that are your jam helps you find happiness. And music is such a great way of doing that. And so we at Vibes are really dedicated at making sure that original artists are being played in fitness classes legally, not on Spotify,
Amen.
not on Apple. Let's make these struggling artists that have really amazing music, but make sure they get paid. Yes, that includes Taylor and Beyonce, even though they're not struggling, but still credit where credit's due. But we want to make sure that people are really utilizing music as a way to help their retention, to help people improve their mental well-being. And so in Vibes, we're coming out with playlists for all different types of classes, whether you teach active aging, you teach aqua, you teach yoga, you teach Pilates, you teach spinning or high-low or strength or whatever it is that you teach, we've got a playlist for you. We also at Vibes, because we know that social connection is so important for someone's mental well-being, we want to hear from you. Our community, our connection pieces. We want to see your playlists. So if you've got something that is just absolutely amazing and you want to share it with us, please send it over to us. We're at hello@musclemixes.com. We'll take your playlist. We'll give you all the credit. We'll make sure it gets out onto the app for everyone else to be able to use, because we really do believe in that social connection piece.
I love that. And Soraya is watching live. And one of the things she just said, she teaches belly dance fitness. So she has Rock the Bar. And she said, I wish there was a broader international option like Arabic. Soraya, what I would say to you is if you do have a specific playlist that you love, send it over and let Jessica and Denise do the research on whether or not they can bring some of that into the app and maybe even feature your playlist.
Yeah, and we've got a great section on the app that on the homepage that's around the world music. So we've got playlists from Brazilian artists. We have playlists from African artists. We have playlists that are Latin spices. We're working with Masingi, with Ingrid, who's absolutely amazing. I know you've had her on this show before and have featured her new product, Masingi, and that class playlist, all of those are on our app as well. So if you're looking for Afro beats and a little bit more African in flavor, we have those for you as well. And again, like I love all the music and all the recommendations. So if there's like a specific artist, playlist, album I should listen to.
Love it. I love it. And I would love to have Soraya. I know I'm working with her right now to get her to do a demo within the hub. Ingrid did a demo of Masingi. It was very, very popular. It's still in the featured section. So if you go to the Healthpreneur Hub Facebook group at the top in the featured section, you'll find that 20-minute demo of Masingi. And I'm hoping to get a Rock the Bar demo into the group soon.
Incredible. That would be so fun.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Jessica. And thank you for being here for the full episode this week. I know last week we just had you do the Vibes update, but you stood in for Denise this week. And maybe we'll just do a little triptych at times, just depending on what the topic is. Or But I think that I think this was great. You guys, let us know if you got a lot out of this. I'd love to see
Mhm.
you in the comments. Um, letting us know what was helpful, what was not. I did put the link to that session for tomorrow in the link. It is a small fee. It's like $27. You guys, you spent more than that on a Stanley Cup last week. So this is the thing that's going to move your business forward for the entire year next year. I want to see you there. It's where you're going to come in live with me in Zoom, and together we are going to go through your calendar and arrange it in the way that is manageable and moves your business forward for the next year. We're also, let me mention one more thing before I go. We're also going to plan your Black Friday offer, or at least touch on your Black Friday offer, because so many of us tend to start to shut down this time of year. And there is a lot of impact and money to be made in the last 60 days of the year. People want accountability, they want support, they want to not gain the 8 pounds that is normal during the holidays. And so there are definitely offers to be made to your audience during November and December. And I want to help you with that tomorrow as well.
That sounds so exciting. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for having me here to have this discussion. I hope to see you again in the future. And for you guys in the audience, I can't wait to hear how your planning session goes tomorrow with Kelly. I'm sure we'll catch up on it over the next couple of days.
We will. All right, y'all. Thank you. I'll
Thanks,
see you
everyone.
soon.
Bye.